In this video, I just wanted to show how you can create a post-process material which you can use to stencil and mask out some of your mesh to create some different effects. So for example, if I come to my post-process and enable it, you can see that my boat is now still in colour, but my world has desaturated and become black and white. A couple of things to note is that because it's a post-process effect, it's happening after everything else is rendered. So there's a few things that happen where your masking still honours changes in the lighting. So for example here, if I change the lighting, same thing. You know, we've got a low sunrise, the world is black and white, but the boat is masking that out. So first things first, if you come to project settings and make sure you have got your post-processing custom depth stencil path and choose enabled with stencil. That's important, not just enabled with stencil. Then you can come and create a post-process material. Just as any other material, create a new material, come over to your output pins and make sure your material domain is post-process. Okay. Now we're doing a couple of things. We are taking our scene, and that input is just the world scene, that's no real post-processing effects applied. And we're taking the colour from that and desaturating it, but then also masking out the RGB channels and plugging both of those into the A and B channels of alert. We're using another scene texture, the custom stencil. So here, if you come to scene texture, you'll see on the left hand side you've got some drop downs. So this one here I've changed to post-process input 0. And then this bottom one is custom stencil, which is towards the bottom. Now the thing to note with the custom stencil is we're just taking one of the values. So we're masking out the R using a component mask and then unchecking the G. So we're just using one channel, whereas here we're using RGB. So they're both component masks. Now when we come into our world, on our mesh, if I select the mesh and come to depth, you'll see that I have also got render custom depth path checked, and I've given this mesh a custom depth stencil value of 1, so that's an ID really. You can have multiple stencil values across objects, or the same if you want them to be affected by the same stencil effect. And an alpha is black and white, so we're taking that grayscale channel and using it to determine what is desaturated and what is saturated. And if I just swap these two round, then the opposite will be true. The boat will be black and white and the world will be colour. Now this is just a quick introduction. The thing to bear in mind is that there are a whole host of scene texture inputs that you can choose. A real creative playground to explore here to create distinct and unique effects. And I'm only just starting to play around with these myself, so I'd love to see what you guys have been up to using this and what you've done when experimenting. Now, one other thing we need to do, we need to go to our post-process. We just add a post-process volume to the world, and the only thing that we need to do is come to our rendering features, come to post-process material, and we add one to the array, and you'll see that I've then selected our material, post-process material stencil. Okay, and my post-process volume in the world is both enabled and infinite extent, so it enacts upon that throughout the world. Apply that, so we've got our boat back in colour. Another thing which I thought was quite fun was I started to play around with the bokeh effects, and here if I come to intensity from my lens flare, you'll see that the kind of bokeh effect that I have, I've got these skull and crossbones that are coming and just giving me some kind of graphic feedback that oil is bad, but that's using a colour tint on the bokeh, and again, because that colour tint is a post-process effect, it's happening after. So you start getting quite an interesting effect where you can have all sorts of things going on. I'm going to do a little sort of cinematic using these techniques, and something quite stylized, but I think it could be quite interesting. But we'll see where that goes. So yeah, stenciling using the scene texture custom stencil. Have fun. Okay, thanks. So I hope that video is of use. If so, please do like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive any updates. And thank you for your support.